Hello, Mount Zion. My name is Maya Naomi Lipscomb, and I'm a filmmaker and have been a member of Mount Zion since New Year's Eve 2021. I have had the pleasure of serving as the director, writer, and editor of the documentary that you are about to watch. This documentary is a special tribute in celebration of the 30th pastoral anniversary of Bishop Joseph Walker. One of my favorite aspects of the filmmaking process is how collaborative it is, and I could not have brought this vision to life without the help, support, and creativity of some incredible individuals. First, I would like to give a special thank you to the 30th Anniversary Documentary Planning Committee for welcoming me with open arms and entrusting me with the responsibility of directing this documentary. Additionally, I'd like to thank our production crew, our producer, Mark Jackson, our director of photography, Cameron Kennedy, our additional cinematographer, Trevor Ball, our music composer, Nicole Neely, and our lead actor portraying a young Bishop Walker, Brandon L. Woolley. And finally, happy 30th anniversary, Bishop Walker. Thank you for your leadership that has been an inspiration to me throughout the years, for the love that you not only have shown Mount Zion and the Nashville community, but to people all around the world, and for your legacy that will continue to live on forever. This is Leadership, Love, Legacy, a documentary in celebration of the 30th pastoral anniversary of Bishop Joseph Warren Walker III. I hope you enjoy it.
"30 years, what a journey. A remarkable journey for me because of so many milestones and moments that I will never forget. Coming into this space after finishing Southern University in Baton Rouge, walking through the doors of the Mount Zion Church erected here on Jefferson Street at age 21 years old. Little did I know the history of Jefferson Street itself, economic, thriving Jefferson Street, the historical African American community. So many entrepreneurs and businesses and institutions of higher learning were on this street. And to know that this church is literally in the epicenter of such an incredible history is mind-blowing. It's humbling. And to walk into this space, this historic building, this hallowed place, and to encounter incredible people of faith who love God with all of their heart, small community of people who are believing God for great things, believing God for a great future, a generational church that was truly committed to making certain that the message of the gospel went from generation to generation. I had no idea that I'd be a part of that story. That's how God writes our story, right? We have our own way of doing things, and then God says, no, I'm in control of this narrative.
Bishop Walker first came to Mount Zion. He came as a student. And he sat in the back, in the corner. He eased in. He didn't say much. He introduced himself. He just sat, listened. Little did I know all that knowledge was inside.
And there I was, a seminary student at Vanderbilt Divinity School and a member of this great church, of which I did not initially want to join because it was so counter to what I was used to. When God has a plan, though, there's peace in that plan. For me, it was just Margaret Wilson who literally spoke to me and said, "You're a minister, aren't you?"
Are you a minister? Yes, I am.
I said, I am. And boy, from that day forward, she took me by my hand, and I've been here ever since. And to hear the stories and the incredible memories of this place, serving as a pastor at age 24 years old after finishing Vanderbilt, and to watch this small congregation of 120 people to grow and expand in this place, this is where it began.
When we first met, we called him Joe Walker because we didn't know him as Bishop Walker. And then he said, well, you know, I'm a pastor now, so we changed and said, okay, Pastor Walker. And I never forget Hortense Kirkpatrick. She came and said, guess what? Mount Zion got a new pastor. And me, by being the cut up, I would always say, who is it? And she said, our friend Joe Walker. So when he came downstairs, I said, congratulations, Pastor Walker. He said, oh, you can keep on calling me Joe Walker. I said, no, Pastor Walker.
You know, God called him to be a minister. God called him to be a pastor because it's just a shock to a lot of people. It's so amazing that when he became a minister, you know, that saying that they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him what you're going to do tomorrow. Well, we as a family, you know, we wanted our brother to be our pastor. So we had already had it all set up. We say, Pastor Blake will retire and Warren will come back and be our pastor here at Mount Canaan, and it'll work out just the way we want it to work. But look, it's 30 years later. He's the pastor of Mount Zion in one church. And look how many souls he's saved in 30 years.
He knew his assignment. He understood his assignment. You know, it's one thing to be given an assignment and then you toy with it for a minute and then you go out and do your own thing. Well, he understood that his blessings were tied to taking care of the original assignment that he was given.
After having become pastor of the church, I had worked with him in Sunday school. I actually think he was called by the Lord.
Bishop was still working here at the church and at the Sunday School Publishing Board as well. So he was doing a dual role. So eventually, as the church started to grow, he could no longer continue to do the Sunday School Publishing Board because the church was growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, it was to the point he had the deacons every Sunday. He said, start putting chairs in the aisles because God has shown me the vision that it's going to be an influx of people. Students
were coming from Fisk University and Tennessee State University, and it just kept coming from Harry, and it just kept coming. And all of a sudden, we were sitting in the windowsills. The deacons were sitting on the steps, and I was preaching literally with people inches from me because people were just hungry for the Word of God, hungry for the presence of God.
Having started here at Mount Zion back in '92, while I was a college student at Tennessee State, I would recall him being on campus, greeting and getting to know the students, telling them about Mount Zion and all it had to offer. Bishop was present, he was approachable, and he was fun-loving, and college students really gravitated to that. And we were coming to Mount Zion, but the word spread quickly. Before the days of a Twitter, of an Instagram, of a text message, you know, we were spreading the word on our various campuses because the word was being made plain. And college students were able to take the Word of God in the way that he presented it and apply that to their everyday lives.
He did a lot of talking to the young people in a language that they would understand.
His method of teaching, we instructed the church as a whole to learn all the books of the Bible. He explained certain scriptures to the church where he would be sure that we understood what he was saying.
I had no idea what I was doing, actually. I was just preaching the gospel. I didn't know how to pastor, but the incredible people of this church, many who are still with us today, the Wiley family and others who were praying for me, gave me the grace, support to grow. I grew up among them to watch the power of God change so many lives. I mean, thousands upon thousands of lives were changed in this place. Miracles happened in this place. The greatest miracle happened in me, because I was changed.
My mother always told me that
A change brings about a change, and you have to be open for change.
The growth of Mount Zion seemed to occur pretty rapidly upon Bishop's arrival here. Thinking back over time that we were just here at Jefferson Street, there wasn't a seat that was empty. I remember that there were even people sitting in the window sills, to the point where the fire marshal was saying, worship is wonderful, but we have to make sure that people are safe. So at that point, we began to explore what other options we had.
You know, one of the things I've discovered about growth, with growth comes two things: opposition, but opportunity. And for us, we experienced both. Mount Zion was growing so fast. I mean, thousands were coming, people were wrapped around this building. And then God spoke to me about relocating us to accommodate the folks that were coming. We needed greater capacity. As God had opened up a door for us to go to the World Baptist Center, seating 3,200 people in one seating. I was so nervous. And that meeting I never shall forget. The late John Wesley Bailey stood up with his cane in the middle of the meeting and said, if God told you to go, let's go. Boy, I never will forget that moment of affirmation. And the church voted to go to the World Baptist Center. And we got to the World Baptist Center. There were so many skeptics who thought it was a fad. They thought the building would swallow us up. First Sunday we were there. Oh boy, you couldn't get a seat.
I know for Bishop to see that come to pass in that manifestation, it's like, whoa. You know, sometimes you can pray for a thing and God's like, okay, I'm gonna show you. And I know for him to sit up there and to see that, you know, he was probably like, wow, this is amazing, but God, am I ready for this?
Lord, what am I doing? Did you see how many people were in service today? Starting at Jefferson Street and then to the World Baptist Center? I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could do this at all. God, what is it about? I mean, I can't be responsible for all those people. I don't even know how to lead a church this size. I don't know what I'm doing. God, is this your will for my life?
It was unbelievable what God was doing in that place, the national headquarters for the National Baptist Convention. I was right there. And it was amazing as the church continued to grow. And God was doing something, though. We began shifting. We began embracing things. Our theology began to expand. I connected with Bishop Paul Sylvester Morton, Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship.
It was amazing that as a young minister, how he always followed behind the older ministers. He was always searching for wisdom.
When Bishop first joined Full Gospel, he was the bishop of evangelism. That fit him so perfectly, because anyone who knows Bishop knows that he has a passion for the lost. He has a passion for the unsaved, for those who have been disconnected and disenfranchised. And so he served several years there as our bishop of evangelism. And then when one of the bishops that was serving as the bishop of senior pastors moved on, that slot came available. And what a perfect fit for Bishop Joseph Warren Walker III. He absolutely is a pastor's pastor.
When you look at Bishop Walker, just even from a distance, you can tell that he's a man of integrity. Not only is he a man of integrity, but he has vision, he is disciplined, and he knows exactly the goal that he has in mind of what God has placed on the inside of him.
One thing about Bishop, when you think about his start at Mount Zion at 24 years old, and I came to Mount Zion at 25 years old as associate pastor. Just like him, I had no pastoral experience. I had never done the things that I'm doing today. He gives people an opportunity. He believes in the next generation. He believes in the people that serve alongside him, and he trusts their expertise.
I recall when he first got the appointment, and we literally went all around the country connecting with pastors. Bishop would get to that conference early just so that he could connect with a pastor who perhaps they were having difficulty at that time, and then he would stay late. And many times we would have to tell Bishop, you can't give out your personal cell to everybody. That's what we're for. But that's just his passion for pastors.
He's constantly sacrificing to make sure that clearly as a family we have what we need, but as a church family that everyone feels that, one, he's present. Can you count how many Sundays Bishop Walker has missed? Very few and far between. How many Wednesdays he's missed? Very few and far between. And this is a man who's, we're celebrating 30 years. That's unheard of in the church for someone to be present all the time. But for him, his priority has always been Mount Zion.
As soon as we were released from the World Baptist Center, God opened up the door for us to go to the Tennessee State University Gentry Center. And you took a thriving ministry that was appealing to college students and put them in the epicenter of a campus.
That was really phenomenal because it gave us a chance. The students were right there on the campus. So they were able to come from their dorms right into the service. So that started growing by leaps and bounds. So it was like, what is next?
It was just beautiful to see the college ministry become established and evolve into what it is today. Even, bringing students in from all across Middle Tennessee, from Kentucky.
Coming to Middle Tennessee State University, 18 years old, in the fall of 2004, once I got on campus, I heard about a church that was sending a bus and feeding students each and every Sunday. And I found out where that bus was picking up, and I hopped on the bus, and little did I know that that day would literally change my life. I had never heard of college ministry until I came to Mount Zion. And seeing so many students my age be on fire for Christ and coming from all over the world into the city of Nashville and the surrounding cities was just absolutely amazing.
I feel as though my uncle's relationship with college students, I feel that he tries to reach out to college students, especially those that don't have a church home or are not from Nashville. And he just does his part to invite them to Mount Zion and have someone out at each university so they can know about Mount Zion.
In Nashville and surrounding areas, there's like 10 or 11 different colleges, and not many churches will reach out to the different colleges around them, but Mount Zion is a church where, they send buses to go get the kids, they have food prepared for them. So that already shows community, it shows, love, and I think that's one way to keep college students coming back to the church and seeing, the real love of Jesus.
No matter what age you are, when he's up there preaching, you can understand it. It's never a moment where I'm in church and not understanding what's going on. After church, I'm having a whole conversation with my mom at 6, 7, 8 about the sermon. But Bishop knows how to reach all ages.
I believe that Bishop Walker has a very unique knack of being able to adapt well with individuals of all ages, whether you are 2, whether you're 22 or 82. And beginning as pastor here at Mount Zion, a lot of the membership, while small, but a lot of it was senior.
As the church started to grow, he talked about the word balance. He said, the young people are coming, the college students are coming, but we got to do things so that older senior members won't feel that they are left out. He embraced everybody.
Literally, we went from 5,000 members to over 10,000 in just 2 years. It's unbelievable what God did. And that's when we realized we need to build our facility. And we started construction while we were at the Tennessee State Gentry Center on the OHB location.
Once we got the old Hickory location built, they had to go back and make modifications in the blueprint because we only had the first floor and one balcony. And the church was still growing, so they actually had to add another balcony. Then we went to Antioch and we purchased that, which used to be a grocery store. So people were like, okay, we're still paying on this and God has given you this vision for Antioch, and Bishop was like, yes, this is what God has spoken to me, and this is what's gonna be Mount Zion, Antioch, because it's a need in this area. So now we have Jefferson Street, which is the mother church. We have our Old Hickory location, and now we have the Antioch location.
The church grew quite well, even until right now. And now we had one church in three locations.
It became necessary to expand into different areas because everybody wanted to hear that word. He was always engaging and exciting, and you always left feeling that you had received a word through him from God.
It was a fascinating time to watch people excited about the future and about what God was going to do.
When we as a ministry inherited what we inherited from that generation as a pastor 30 years ago, when we inherited, we had a marvelous history in this church. And here we are, 3 locations later. That's why it was so important for us to be debt-free, because it was how we handled the blessing.
His biggest thing was making sure that Mount Zion was debt-free. And y'all did it.
in a pandemic, we come out of a pandemic and we done paid off every building, everything that we have has been paid off under his leadership. It's amazing how you can just see the relief of his face, like almost like, God, I've done what you've asked me to do.
Bishop always talks about what you stand under is what you understand. I take that with me everywhere I go because I stand under a debt-free ministry.
Mount Zion being debt-free is a big thing for me because that opens the door for us to be able to do more things, to reach out to students like myself or youth. We can do a lot more for the community now that the church is debt-free.
And because his priority was making sure that Mount Zion was debt-free, he was committed to being present by any means necessary to make sure that he was able to do what? Leave a legacy.
It's always been we. It's never been about me. And that's how I've been able to do what God has called me to do over these 30 years, doing it together, praying people. Each one of these pews tell a story. Each one of these windows tell a story. Each one of these rooms tell a story of an abiding faith, people who kept trusting God.
His greatest attribute is his heart. He has a heart for God, period. No matter what setting he's in, he's always putting God first in terms of his decisions, the way he lives his life, the way that he leads God's people, the way that he leads as a father, the way that he acts as a husband. He's a man after God's own heart, constantly.
Everything that he does is about the people and not about himself. He shows that through being available, by being relatable, by sitting down and talking with so many people from around the world and in the community, and just by being there.
Let's not forget, he is human. Over the years, we've endured with him as a church, as a congregation, the loss of his first wife, Dr. Diane Walker, and she was our family also.
Our mom passed away in December of last year, and it kind of deflated him. Then we can tell that he's pushing through. He's pushing through, still smiling, still trying to make things happen, what have you. And as we know, and as he tells us, there's a blessing on the other side of through.
So think about these 30 years. I think about my foundation. I think about how now, with all that's going on in the world, how it's important to pivot. But in order to pivot, something's got to be grounded. If you know anything about sports, you can't pivot without something being grounded. And for me, this is that foundation. It's that word. It's the simple things like discipleship, Christian education, growing in the Word of God, prayer. That's my foundation. And though we've pivoted through technology and innovation, and though we're doing things that are just out of the box, I love it. But we also are balanced, because I never shall forget. I never shall forget what I inherited. I came here with the hopes and dreams of people who never in their life were able to see Mount Zion become what it is today. But the young men were dreaming dreams. The old men had visions. They had them. And I guarantee you, It's my hope and my prayer that what we leave for the next generation will be better off than what we inherited. I'm grateful. I look forward because the best is yet to come.
Bishop Walker started a movement called the Spirit of Excellence when I got here, and it was almost in a statement of you can't be as good as, you have to be better than. And everything you do it in the spirit of excellence.
I think that Mount Zion and the Nashville community are very lucky to have Bishop Walker in that seat of leadership. He's been a great person to get to know and to be friends with, but also the ideas that he has for not only Nashville, but beyond, and what he's able to do through his international affiliations as well. It's great for future generations to see what they can achieve to be if they just follow their dreams.
Bishop Walker's exact vision for the deaf ministry, it's a conversation I'm enjoying. I can tell you that the focus, the vision, is the same as the house, and it all starts with community. Expanding the knowledge of the Word of God for the deaf community, and expanding the knowledge of deaf culture for the church itself, and fellowship, and that leads to engagement, and then ultimately that leads to discipleship where the deaf soul is being saved.
Bishop Walker has been very, very instrumental in the maintenance of our legacy and looking towards the future. He has been a focal point of attention relative to the potential growth of the community that we serve.
Right down the street, they named the bridge after him. So I think he made himself known quite well.
Mm-hmm. Somehow, and many of you have known this, that when he gets in front of you in those moments, you feel like you are the only person in his world, because he stops, he listens, he imparts wisdom, he'll stand there and pray for you, but he understands the importance of being present, of you being heard, for you feeling like you belong. All of this stems from this man leading.
He continues to be a blessing, not just to the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship International, but to the entire world.
30 years, ups and downs, ins and outs, joys and pains, sunshine and rain. But I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been an extraordinary journey watching God touch lives, from Jefferson Street to the World Baptist Center, TSU Gentry Center, and now through OHB, J Street, and Antioch, and even around the world. I'm so grateful for how God has used me as his servant to be a blessing to his people. At the end of the day, I've learned it's not about me. A very sobering and important lesson I got when I was young, that God reminded me that I'm insignificant to the process, but it's all about his glory. And so every day I wake up just wanting to do God's will. I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. So I'm excited. I'm poised. I'm ready. Everything that God has in store for my life.
Just wait until you see what God has in store for us.
Let's see.